The gun was in my hand before the risotto even hit the floor. 3 seconds. That's how long it took for my entire world to shatter into 1,000 pieces. 3 seconds to realize that the man I'd been sent to destroy was the only person in this nightmare telling the truth. But let me go back. Back to the night everything started. The night I walked into hell wearing a chef's coat and a smile I didn't feel. My name is Elena Castellano. At least, that's what my badge says. To the rest of the world, I'm Elena Russo, celebrity chef, catering company owner, the girl who turned her grandmother's recipes into a Food Network feature. That version of me was carefully constructed over 8 months. Every Instagram post. Every food blog interview. Every 5-star review. All of it was a lie. The truth? I'm FBI. Organized Crime Division. And I'd been trying to get close to Alessio Vittori for 237 days. 237 days of living someone else's life. Of waking up and wondering which version of myself I'd be that day. Of practicing my smile in the mirror until it looked natural. Until I almost believed it myself. My handler, Marcus Webb, had shown me the file on my first day. Crime scene photos that made my stomach turn. Witness statements that painted a picture of brutality I could barely comprehend. Financial records that traced blood money through a dozen shell companies. All of it pointed to one man, Alessio Vittori. A monster dressed in expensive suits who'd built an empire on fear and violence. He's untouchable, Marcus had said, his voice tight with frustration. His hand had trembled slightly as he closed the file, and I remembered thinking that this case meant something personal to him. Traditional surveillance won't work. He's too smart, too careful. We need someone inside. Someone he'd never suspect. He'd looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I couldn't quite name. Trust, maybe. Or hope. Someone like a chef, I'd said quietly. Someone like you. The plan was simple. Too simple, maybe. My catering company would accidentally double-book a private dinner. I'd show up at Vittori's estate, realize my mistake, and witness something I shouldn't. Something dangerous enough that he'd have to keep me close to ensure my silence. Something that would give me access to his world, his secrets, his crimes. Keep your enemies closer, right? Marcus had spent weeks preparing me. Teaching me how to read people, how to lie without flinching, how to gather evidence without leaving traces. He'll test you, Marcus had warned. Men like Vittori, they sense weakness. They smell fear. You need to be perfect, Elena. One mistake and you're dead. I'd nodded. Memorized every detail of the false life we'd built. Practiced my cover story until it felt more real than my actual childhood. But nothing could have prepared me for that night. I remember driving up to his estate, hands trembling on the steering wheel despite all my training. The file photos didn't do the place justice. It looked like something out of a dark fairy tale, all iron gates and stone walls and windows that glowed like amber against the October sky. The kind of place where secrets lived in the shadows and nobody asked too many questions. The security guard at the gate had checked my name against a list I knew I wasn't on. My heart had hammered so hard I thought he could hear it. But I'd smiled, that practiced, perfect smile, and explained about the Hendersons' dinner, the address mix-up, the honest mistake. He'd waved me through after a long, tense moment. And just like that, I was in. I carried my supplies to the service entrance, practicing my nervous chef act in my head. The slight shake in my voice. The apologetic posture. The wide-eyed innocence of someone who'd stumbled into something way over their head. But when I pushed through those kitchen doors, every practiced line died in my throat. The dining room beyond was filled with men in dark suits. 20, maybe 30 of them. They sat around a massive table, their faces hard and expressionless. The air felt heavy, dangerous. Like walking into a room full of coiled snakes. And at the head of the table, watching me with eyes like smoke and steel, was Alessio Vittori. He was younger than his file photo. Mid-30s, maybe. Dark hair pushed back from his face. Sharp jaw. High cheekbones. The kind of face that belonged in Renaissance paintings, beautiful in a way that felt almost cruel. But it was his eyes that stopped me cold. They were calculating. Assessing. Intelligent in a way that made every instinct I had scream danger. Like he could see straight through my carefully constructed mask. Like he knew exactly what I was the moment I walked through that door. The room had gone silent. Every man at that table turned to look at me. I felt their eyes like physical weight. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, letting my voice shake. Real fear mixed with performance fear until I couldn't tell the difference anymore. "There's been a terrible mistake. I thought this was the Hendersons' private dinner party. They live on Oakwood, and I'll just go. I'm so sorry." My hands fumbled with my supply bag. I took a step backward toward the door. "Stay." One word. That's all it took. The room went silent. Alessio Vittori stood slowly, unfolding from his chair with a kind of controlled grace that made my training instinct scream danger. Every movement was deliberate. Economical. Like a predator who never wasted energy. "You're already here," he said, his voice smooth and dark as expensive whiskey. "And we are hungry. So cook." It wasn't a request. It was a command. One of his men shifted in his seat. "Boss, we can't just." Alessio raised one hand, and the man fell silent instantly. The power dynamic in the room was crystal clear. This was a man people obeyed without question. "What's your name?" Alessio asked me, those steel gray eyes never leaving my face. "Elena. Elena Russo." The lie came easily now. I'd said it so many times it almost felt true. "Well, Elena Russo." He gestured toward the kitchen. "Show us what you can do." I should have run. That would have been the smart thing. The safe thing. I could have stumbled out the door, driven away, told Marcus the plan had failed before it even started. But running wasn't part of the plan. And despite the fear coursing through my veins, despite every rational thought telling me to get out, I stayed. Because this was exactly what we'd wanted. Access. Proximity. A way in. So I cooked. For 3 hours, I prepared a meal for 30 men who watched me like wolves circling prey. My hands moved automatically, dicing, sautéing, plating, while my mind raced. Through the kitchen doorway, I could hear snatches of conversation. Names I recognized from the file. Dates. Shipment details. Numbers that probably represented money or weapons or drugs. Everything Marcus said we needed. I was gathering evidence. Building a case. Doing my job. I wasn't supposed to notice other things. Small things. Wrong things. Like the way Alessio barely touched his food while the others ate with enthusiasm. The way his jaw tightened when one of his men made a crude joke about a woman. The way he corrected another man's grammar mid-sentence, his voice carrying the kind of education that didn't fit Marcus's profile of a street thug who'd climbed to power through violence. The way his eyes found mine across the room, not with threat, but with something that looked almost like curiosity. Recognition. Like he was trying to solve a puzzle. It threw me off balance. Made me question the file. Made me question everything. When the dinner ended, the men filed out one by one. I packed my things with shaking hands, real shaking this time, not the performance kind. I'd done it. I'd gotten in. I'd heard enough in 3 hours to give Marcus a dozen new leads. Now I just needed to get out and... "Miss Russo." His voice stopped me at the door. Low. Quiet. The kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to command attention. I turned slowly, forcing myself to meet his gaze. He stood alone now in the dining room, his hands in his pockets, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. He stepped closer. Too close. I could smell his cologne, something dark and woody with notes of bergamot that made my pulse spike in ways that had nothing to do with fear. Or maybe it had everything to do with fear. Maybe I just didn't know what kind. You heard things tonight, he said quietly, his eyes searching my face. Things that could be problematic for you. Every muscle in my body tensed. This was it. The moment Marcus had warned me about. The test. I don't know what you're talking about. I forced confusion into my voice, widening my eyes slightly. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. I was just cooking. I had my headphones in most of the time anyway. I don't really pay attention to. You're a very talented liar. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. But not talented enough. Which puts us both in a difficult position. My heart stopped. He knew. Somehow, he knew I'd been listening. That I'd heard everything. My hand moved instinctively toward my purse, where my service weapon was hidden beneath a layer of kitchen towels. But he caught my wrist before I even got close, his grip gentle but completely firm. I'm not going to hurt you, he said, and something in his voice made me believe him. Which was insane. This man was supposed to be a killer. A criminal. Someone who eliminated threats without hesitation. But his touch was careful. Almost protective. But I can't let you leave, he continued. Not yet. Not until I know you're not a threat. Not until I know you won't run straight to the police with what you heard tonight. I wouldn't, I started, but he shook his head. Everyone says that. Everyone promises. And then they disappear, and 2 days later the feds are knocking on my door. He released my wrist, stepping back to give me space. So what am I supposed to do with you, Elena Russo? The way he said my name, slow, deliberate, like he was tasting each syllable, made something flutter in my chest. So what, you're just going to keep me here? My voice came out shakier than I intended. Like a prisoner? Like an employee? He crossed his arms, studying me. I need a personal chef. Someone who understands discretion. Someone who's already seen too much to be a liability. Someone who makes carbonara the way my mother used to. That last part caught me off guard. It was so unexpectedly personal, so human, that I forgot to be afraid for a second. You'll live in the guest house on the property, he continued. Cook my meals. Stay close. Keep your mouth shut. And in return, you stay alive. You get paid well. And when enough time has passed that I know you're not a threat, you're free to go. It was perfect. Too perfect. Everything Marcus and I had planned, handed to me on a silver platter. So why did it feel like I was making the worst mistake of my life? Why did his eyes make me feel like I was the one being investigated? How long? I asked quietly. As long as it takes. His expression was unreadable. Could be weeks. Could be months. Depends on how much I come to trust you. Trust. What a strange word coming from a man who supposedly trusted no one. Okay, I whispered, sealing my fate with a single word. Okay. He nodded once, then turned away. But at the doorway, he paused, looking back over his shoulder. Elena? The way he said my name, soft, almost careful, sent electricity down my spine. Not fear this time. Something else. Something I didn't want to examine too closely. Welcome to my world. Try not to get lost in it. The guest house was beautiful in a way that made me angry. Exposed brick walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a garden where roses grew in the moonlight. A kitchen that would make any chef weep with joy, professional-grade appliances, marble countertops, every tool I could possibly need. Soft lighting. Comfortable furniture. A bed that looked like clouds. It felt like a cage made of velvet. I swept for bugs that first night, my hands moving with practiced efficiency. Found 3. 2 in the living room, 1 in the bedroom. Standard surveillance. I left them in place, removing them would show I knew what to look for, and planted 2 of my own in better locations. 1 under the nightstand, 1 inside a decorative vase. Small. Undetectable. FBI-grade technology that would pick up everything. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and called Marcus on my encrypted phone, hands shaking with adrenaline and something else I couldn't name. "I'm in," I said quietly, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. "Good girl." His voice was warm with approval, almost paternal. "I knew you could do it. Tell me everything." So I did. Every detail. The men at the table. The conversations I'd overheard. The names and dates and numbers. Everything except the part where Alessio had looked at me like he could see my soul. Everything except the way my pulse had jumped when he touched my wrist. Everything except the strange, unsettling feeling that something about this whole situation was wrong. "This is perfect, Elena," Marcus said when I finished. "Better than we could have hoped. Now the real work begins. Get close to him. Find out everything. Build that trust he talked about." "And Elena?" "Yes. Don't forget what he is." His voice turned serious. "Hard. Don't let him make you forget. Men like Vittori, they're charming. They're smooth. They make you think they're something they're not. That's how they survive. But underneath, he's a killer. A criminal. A monster. Don't ever forget that." "I won't," I promised. But as I hung up and stared at my reflection in the darkened window, I wondered if I was lying to him or to myself. I looked at the girl looking back at me. At the chef who wasn't really a chef. At the agent playing a role. At the layers of lies I'd wrapped around myself like armor, until I couldn't remember where the performance ended and the real me began. Don't let him make you forget. Too late. I already knew it was too late. Because when Alessio Vittori looked at me, I didn't feel like a weapon. I didn't feel like an agent on a mission. I felt like a person. Like someone who mattered. Like someone who was seen. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. The first week was a careful dance. Measured steps. Controlled distance. Eyes always watching, never lingering too long. I cooked. He ate. That was the rhythm of it. The quiet ritual that framed our days. I learned the kitchen quickly, the way the old gas stove took longer to heat, the drawer that stuck unless you lifted it slightly, the sharpness of the knives he kept immaculately clean. I cooked like it mattered. Like consistency itself could keep me safe. We spoke only when necessary. "Dinner's ready." "Thank you. I'll clear the table." "I've got it." Politeness, practiced and restrained. 2 strangers pretending not to see each other too clearly. But I watched him. Constantly. Every morning, I noted the exact time he left for his business meetings. Always dressed impeccably. Dark suits, crisp shirts, cufflinks that caught the light just enough to draw the eye without boasting. He never rushed. Never slammed doors. He moved like a man who had learned that haste invited mistakes. Every evening, I listened for the sound of his car in the driveway. The soft click of the door opening. The quiet sigh he never seemed to realize he made when he stepped inside. He came home with tired eyes, shadows beneath them that no amount of sleep could erase. His shoulders carried weight, something invisible but immense. Guilt, maybe. Or responsibility. Or the kind of burden you only feel when lives depend on your decisions. He wasn't what I expected. The file Marcus had given me painted him in harsh lines and cold facts. Alessio Vittori. Ruthless. Calculated. Responsible for bodies that never surfaced and money that never stopped moving. A man who built an empire on blood and fear, whose name carried enough weight to silence rooms. But the man I lived with was quiet. Thoughtful. He read philosophy books in Italian, dog-eared paperbacks, hardcovers with cracked spines, and left them scattered around the house like evidence of a mind that never rested. I'd find them on the arm of the couch, face down on the coffee table, open beside his bed. Sometimes I caught him rereading the same page, eyes unfocused, like the words were just an excuse to sit with his thoughts. He never raised his voice. Never barked orders. Never so much as looked at me wrong. It didn't make sense. And that scared me more than if it had. 2 weeks in, the tension had become something physical. A hum beneath my skin. I was hyper-aware of everything, the way he moved through the space, the way silence stretched between us, heavy with things neither of us said. That's when I found him in the garden at midnight. I hadn't been able to sleep. The house felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against your ears until you're sure something is wrong. When I saw the faint glow through the window, I thought maybe I was imagining it. But there he was, sitting on the stone bench beneath the old olive tree. He stared at nothing. A glass of wine rested loosely in his hand, forgotten. The surface reflected the moonlight, untouched. "You should be sleeping," he said, without turning around. His voice didn't startle me. Somehow, I'd known he was aware of me. "So should you," I replied. I stepped into the garden, the cool air brushing against my arms. Gravel crunched softly under my feet. He smiled faintly. "Sleep is overrated." There was something hollow in the way he said it. Not joking. Not bitter. Just tired. I don't know what made me sit beside him. Maybe it was exhaustion. The kind that seeps into your bones after weeks of pretending, of measuring every word, every glance. Maybe it was the loneliness that came with living a double life, being someone else's version of yourself every waking hour. Or maybe it was the way the moonlight caught in his hair, softening the hard lines of his face, making him look less like a monster and more like a man who'd simply been awake too long. "Why do you do this?" I asked quietly. He didn't move. Didn't look at me. "This life," I clarified. "This darkness." The silence stretched. Long enough that I thought he'd chosen not to answer. Long enough for me to regret asking. Then he spoke. "Because someone has to." I frowned. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you." He finally turned his head, and the look in his eyes made my chest ache. There was no menace there. No calculation. Just a deep, weary honesty that felt dangerous in its own way. "Some of us don't get to choose our paths, Elena," he said softly. "Some of us just walk them and hope we make it to the end with our souls intact." The sound of my name on his lips did something to me. Grounded me. Unsettled me. "Do you think you will?" I asked. "Make it to the end?" He didn't hesitate. "No." The single word landed between us like a confession. Heavy. Unavoidable. But I'll die trying. We didn't speak after that. The night wrapped around us, thick and intimate. The distant sounds of the city felt unreal, like another world entirely. And when his hand found mine in the darkness, warm, steady, I didn't pull away. I should have. God, I should have. But his touch felt real. Solid. Like something anchoring me to the moment. The first real thing I'd felt in months. The third week, everything changed. I was cooking dinner, pasta carbonara, simple but perfect. I focused on the mechanics of it, the sound of the pan, the smell of garlic, the rhythm of stirring. Control. Normalcy. He walked into the kitchen. That wasn't unusual. He often lingered there, leaning against the counter, watching me cook with a quiet intensity that made my hands shake if I thought about it too much. But this time was different. He didn't stop at the doorway. He moved closer. Close enough that I could feel the heat of him behind me, sense his presence like gravity. "You're tense," he murmured. "I'm fine." Liar. His hand settled on my shoulder. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to step away, to break contact, to remember why I was here. His thumb pressed gently, almost absent-mindedly. "You're always tense," he said. "Like you're waiting for something to go wrong." Maybe I am. Or maybe you're hiding something. My heart stopped. This was it. The moment the lie collapsed. The moment he looked at me differently. I could feel the room closing in, every exit suddenly too far away. "We're all hiding something, Elena," he continued, his voice calm, almost kind. His thumb traced a small circle against my shoulder blade, and the intimacy of the gesture made my breath hitch. "The question is whether we're brave enough to stop." I turned to face him. We were inches apart. Close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his gray eyes. Close enough that when I breathed him in, wine, soap, something uniquely him. "What are you hiding?" I whispered. He didn't smile. Didn't deflect. "Everything." His hand came up to cup my face. I should have moved away. Should have remembered the mission. The file. The truth of why I was in this house. But when he kissed me, all of that disappeared. It started soft. Tentative. Like a question he was afraid to hear answered. His lips barely brushed mine, as if giving me time to pull away. I didn't. When I kissed him back, something in both of us broke open. His hands tangled in my hair. Mine fisted in his shirt, gripping like I needed proof he was real. We kissed like we were drowning and the other person was air. Like this moment mattered more than anything else we'd ever done. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. "This is a mistake," I whispered against his lips. "I know. We can't do this." "I know. Alessio." "I know, Elena. I know all of it. And I don't care." He rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed. "I'm tired of being alone in this," he said. "I'm tired of pretending I don't feel something when you walk into a room. I'm tired of fighting something that feels this real." Real. The word echoed in my chest. "I'm scared," I admitted. "So am I." His smile was sad. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." That night, he held me on the couch while the fire burned low. No promises. No expectations. Just warmth and silence and the steady beat of his heart beneath my palm. And the terrifying realization that I was falling for the man I was supposed to destroy. I called Marcus the next morning while Alessio was out. "I need to see the file again," I said. "Something doesn't add up." "What do you mean?" His voice sharpened instantly. "Has Vittori said something?" "No. That's the problem. He doesn't act like the file, Marcus. He doesn't talk like it. He's not." "Not what?" Marcus cut in. "Not a criminal?" His laugh was harsh. Disbelieving. "That's exactly what he wants you to think, Elena. This is what these men do. They charm you. They make you doubt. They make you care. And then they use that against you." I'm not being charmed, I said tightly. I'm being thorough. You're being compromised. The warmth vanished from his voice. And that concerns me. We're running out of time. The evidence you've gathered is good, but we need something concrete. Something that will stick. There was a pause. Then, I'm sending you a package tomorrow. GPS tracker. You plant it in his car, and we'll have his entire network within a week. And then? I asked. And then we take him down, Marcus said flatly. That's always been the plan, Elena. Don't tell me you're forgetting that. I wasn't forgetting. That was the problem. I was remembering too much. The way Alessio read to me in Italian, translating softly, his voice dropping when he spoke words his mother used to say. The way he cooked beside me sometimes, admitting he found it peaceful. The way he touched me like I was something precious. Something worth protecting. The way he looked at me like he was falling too. I'll plant the tracker, I said finally. But Marcus? After this is over, I want to transfer. I can't do this anymore. Of course, he replied smoothly. You've done amazing work, Elena. Your country is proud of you. Just hold on a little longer. We're almost there. The package arrived the next day. Small. Innocuous. I stared at it for an hour before opening it. Inside was the tracker. And a gun. Clean. Untraceable. The kind meant for endings. My hands went cold. There was a note. Marcus's handwriting. Insurance. Just in case. You know what to do if he discovers the truth. Protect yourself. I burned. That night, Alessio took me to the roof of his estate. The city sprawled below us like a carpet of stars. I want to show you something, he said, pulling a worn photo from his wallet. This is my sister, Juliana. She died when I was 22. Overdose. The drugs came from a man who called himself a businessman. A pillar of the community. Someone everyone trusted. His jaw tightened. I couldn't save her. But I thought, maybe I could stop him. Stop men like him. So I made choices. Choices that led me here. To this life. To this darkness. He looked at me. I'm not proud of everything I've done, Elena. But I sleep at night because I know why I'm doing it. What are you really trying to tell me? I whispered. That things aren't always what they seem. That sometimes the monsters wear badges and the heroes wear blood on their hands. He cupped my face. That I see you, Elena. All of you. And I'm not afraid of what I see. Tears burned my eyes. You should be. Why? Because I'm lying to you. Because I'm going to destroy you. Because I'm not who you think I am. But I couldn't say any of it. So I kissed him instead. Kissed him like it was the last time. Like I could apologize with my lips for what my hands were about to do. I planted the tracker 3 days later while he was in a meeting. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it twice. It felt like betrayal. It felt like murder. That night, Marcus called. Good work. We're moving in 72 hours. Get out now, Elena. Make an excuse, leave, and don't look back. We'll take it from here. Wait. 72 hours? That's not enough time to. To what? Say goodbye? His laugh was cold. This isn't a romance novel. This is the job. You did what you were supposed to do. Now let us finish it. Marcus, I think we should look deeper into. Are you questioning me? The ice in his voice made me flinch. Because it sounds like you're questioning me, Agent Castellano. It sounds like you've forgotten who the criminal is here. I haven't forgotten anything. Good. Then pack your things and disappear. That's an order. He hung up. I sat in the darkness of the guest house, staring at nothing. 72 hours. 3 days. And then Alessio would be arrested. Destroyed. Everything he'd built, good or bad, would come crashing down. And it would be because of me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't walk away without knowing the truth. The real truth, not the one in Marcus's file. So I did something I never should have done. I broke into Alessio's office and started digging. His computer was encrypted, but my FBI training wasn't for nothing. It took me 2 hours, but I got in. And what I found made my blood run cold. Email chains. Coded, but I knew how to read them. And they weren't about drug shipments or money laundering or any of the things Marcus's file described. They were intelligence reports. Surveillance logs. Evidence collection. Alessio wasn't running a criminal empire. He was documenting it. My hands flew over the keyboard, opening file after file. 5 years. He'd been undercover for 5 years. Deep cover. The kind where you lose yourself so completely you forget where the mask ends and you begin. The Mafia summit I'd catered? He'd been feeding information to his FBI handlers while maintaining his cover. Every meeting. Every transaction. Every name in his phone. All of it was being sent to. I stopped breathing. The handler name at the top of every report, Marcus Webb. No. No, no, no. I kept digging, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might be sick. Deeper into the files. Into encrypted folders that required 3 different passwords to access. And then I found it. The real file. The one Marcus never showed me. Marcus Webb wasn't Alessio's handler. He was the target. 5 years ago, Marcus had been flagged for suspicious activity. Money in offshore accounts. Connections to the very criminals he was supposed to be investigating. But he was smart. Careful. So the Bureau planted Alessio to get the evidence they needed. Alessio had gotten close. So close that Marcus knew he was about to be exposed. So he did what any cornered animal would do. He created a false file. Made Alessio look like the criminal. And then he sent me, his most loyal agent, the girl who trusted him like a father, to eliminate the threat. The evidence I was supposed to plant. The tracker. The gun under my mattress. I wasn't investigating Alessio's crimes. I was the weapon Marcus was using to commit his own. The door behind me opened. I spun around, and there was Alessio. Standing in the doorway. Looking at me, looking at his computer screen. For one horrible second, we just stared at each other. How long have you known? My voice cracked. How long have you known what I am? Since the first night. He stepped into the room slowly, like I was a wild animal that might bolt. You're good, Elena. Better than most. But I've been doing this for 5 years. I know how to spot a plant. Then why did you let me stay? Why did you? I couldn't finish. Couldn't say all the things that word encompassed. Because I looked into you too. And I found something interesting. He pulled out his phone, showing me a picture. My real FBI file. My real background. My real face. Elena Castellano. 8 years with the Bureau. Perfect record. Commendations for bravery. Completely clean. He looked up at me. You're one of the good ones, Elena. So I knew that if you were here, something was very wrong. You were investigating Marcus. We both were. He moved closer. I just had a head start. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if I could trust you. I didn't know if you'd believe me over the man who trained you. His hand came up to cup my face. And then I fell in love with you, and telling you became the most dangerous thing I could do. The words hit me like a physical blow. You love me. Desperately. Dangerously. Completely. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I love you, and I know that you were sent here to destroy me. I know that every moment we've shared started as a lie. And I don't care. Because somewhere along the way, it became real. Didn't it? Tears spilled down my cheeks. Yes. God help me, yes. Then we have a choice to make. His voice was steady. We can run. Disappear. Let Marcus win. Or we can finish this. Together. He has the entire bureau behind him. How do we fight that? With the truth. He showed me another file on his computer. I've been building a case for 5 years. Every transaction. Every payoff. Every lie. It's all here. And now that you know, you can testify. An active agent with first-hand knowledge of his corruption. It'll be enough. He'll kill us both before we get the chance. Probably. His smile was grim. But I'd rather die fighting beside you than live hiding from him. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Where are you? Check in. Now. I looked at Alessio. At the man I was supposed to destroy. At the man I loved. What do? We do what we do best. He pulled me close. We lie. And we survive. The next 48 hours were a blur of planning. We fed Marcus false information. Made him think I was still loyal. Still his. But we were gathering our own evidence. Recording conversations. Documenting everything. Building a case that would bring down not just Marcus, but his entire network. And then, the night before the planned raid, everything went wrong. I was cooking dinner, trying to pretend everything was normal, when Marcus walked through the door. Not called. Not texted. Just appeared, like a ghost from a nightmare. Marcus. I kept my voice steady. What are you doing here? Checking in on my best agent. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You've been radio silent for 6 hours. I got worried. Alessio appeared from the living room, and I watched Marcus's expression shift. Calculation. Assessment. Danger. Web. Alessio's voice was perfectly neutral. To what do I owe the pleasure? Just picking up Agent Castellano. Her assignment here is complete. Is it? Alessio moved to stand beside me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like it's just beginning. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You know. Marcus's hand moved toward his jacket. Both of you know. We do. I stepped forward, putting myself between them. And so does the director of the FBI. And the Attorney General. And about 15 other people who received a very detailed file about an hour ago. It was a bluff. A total bluff. The file was ready to send, but we hadn't done it yet. We'd been waiting for one more piece of evidence. But Marcus didn't know that. His face twisted with rage. You stupid, naive little girl. You have no idea what you've done. I've stopped you. My voice was stronger than I felt. That's what I've done. You've signed your own death warrant. He pulled his gun. Both of you. The world slowed down. I saw Alessio move. Saw him reach for the weapon he kept holstered at his back. Saw Marcus's finger tighten on the trigger. And I moved. I don't remember making the decision. One moment I was standing still, and the next I was diving for Marcus, knocking his aim wide. The shot went wild, shattering the kitchen window. We hit the ground hard. He was stronger, but I was desperate. We fought for the gun, rolling across broken glass, his hands around my throat, my knee driving into his ribs. "You were like a daughter to me," he hissed. "And you betrayed me for him?" "You betrayed everything we stand for," I gasped. "Everything we're supposed to protect." Another shot. This one from behind us. Marcus jerked, his grip loosening. I scrambled away, and there was Alessio, his own weapon trained on Marcus. "It's over," Alessio said quietly. "The file went out the moment you walked through that door. It was set on a timer. By now, every news outlet and federal agency in the country has seen it. Your empire is done." Marcus laughed. Blood stained his shirt, but he still laughed. "You think this ends with me? There are others. There will always be others. Maybe." Alessio helped me to my feet, never taking his eyes off Marcus. "But you won't be one of them." The sirens came then. Real FBI this time. The ones we'd called. The ones who weren't corrupt. And as they took Marcus away, as they took our statements and cataloged the evidence, Alessio's hand found mine. "It's over," he whispered. "It's really over." But I knew the truth. The hard part was just beginning. The investigation took 6 months. 6 months of testimonies and hearings and depositions. 6 months of watching our lives dissected on national news. 6 months of death threats and protection details and barely sleeping. But slowly, painfully, the truth came out. Marcus Webb had been running a criminal empire from inside the FBI for 8 years. He'd used bureau resources to build it. Used agents like me to protect it. And when Alessio got too close, he tried to eliminate the threat. Alessio was cleared. Commended, actually. 5 years of exemplary undercover work. A hero who'd risked everything to expose corruption at the highest levels. I was cleared too. Eventually. But the stain of it followed me. The whispers. The looks. The questions about how I could have been so blind. How could I have trusted Marcus so completely? How could I not have seen? The truth was simple and terrible, because he'd been good at lying. And I'd wanted to believe in something. On the last day of the trial, when the verdict came down, guilty on all counts, life in prison without parole, I walked out of the courthouse and found Alessio waiting. He looked different. Lighter somehow. Like a weight had been lifted. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey." We stood there in the autumn sunlight, 2 people who'd lived through hell and somehow made it out the other side. "So what now?" I asked. "Now we decide." He stepped closer. "Do we let this destroy us? Do we let the lies we told each other poison everything that was real? Or do we choose to start over? How do you start over when everything began with a lie? You tell the truth." He took my hands. "So here's mine, I love you. Not the agent. Not the chef. You. The real you. The brave, brilliant, damaged, beautiful person underneath all the masks. I love the way you burn risotto when you're nervous. I love the way you cry during sad movies and pretend you're not. I love that you trusted me even when everything told you not to. I love that you're still here, still fighting, still choosing to be good in a world that tried to make you hard." Tears streamed down my face. "Alessio. I love you, Elena. And if you'll let me, I'd like to spend the rest of my life proving it. I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who'd been alone in the darkness for 5 years. At the man who'd risked everything for the truth. At the man who'd seen all of me, the lies, the doubts, the fear, and loved me anyway. I love you too, I whispered. I love you, and I'm terrified of what that means. Me too. He smiled. So let's be terrified together. And there, on the courthouse steps, with the whole world watching, he kissed me. Not like a beginning or an ending. Like a promise. A promise that sometimes the most beautiful things are born from the darkest places. That love can survive lies if the truth underneath is strong enough. That two broken people can find healing in each other. We didn't get a perfect ending. Real life doesn't work that way. We both left the FBI. Too much damage. Too many ghosts. I opened a real restaurant, no lies this time, just food and honesty. He became a consultant, helping train agents on the realities of deep undercover work. We moved slowly. Therapy. Conversations that lasted until dawn. Learning to trust again. Learning to love without the weight of deception. Some days were hard. Some days the trauma of what we'd been through would rise up without warning, and we'd have to fight our way back to each other. But we kept choosing each other. Every day. Every moment. Every breath. Because that's what love is, isn't it? Not the fairy tale. Not the perfect story. But the choice to keep showing up. To keep being honest. To keep believing that what you have is worth fighting for. 5 years later, I'm standing in my restaurant kitchen, and he walks through the door. Same dark eyes. Same quiet strength. But now when he looks at me, there are no secrets between us. Busy night? He asks. Always. I wipe my hands on my apron and move into his arms. How was your day? Long. But better now. And it's such a simple moment. Such an ordinary exchange. But it's real. Finally, after all the lies and danger and heartbreak, it's real. That's the thing they don't tell you about love stories. The best ones aren't about the grand gestures or the dramatic moments. They're about the quiet ones. The coming home. The simple touch. The knowing that the person beside you has seen your worst and chosen to stay. I almost killed him once. He almost let me. We were weapons aimed at each other's hearts. But we chose to lay down our arms. We chose to trust when trust seemed impossible. We chose love over lies. And in the end, that made all the difference. Sometimes I think about that night in his garden. When he said some of us don't get to choose our paths. But he was wrong. We always have a choice. I chose him. He chose me. And every day, we choose each other again. That's not a lie. That's not a mission. That's not a cover story. That's just love. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. And it's the truest thing I've ever known.